We continue the information warfare over the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Apparently, what we saw with our own plain eyes and what we've been hearing and reading about from the organized left in this country in their gleeful reaction to Charlie Kirk's murder, apparently we're not supposed to believe anything that we see. We're dealing, of course, with the battle over lies, damn lies, and statistics. And we're going to fact check and blow a bunch of the statistical lies that are being thrown in your face away on this episode of our program. Also, there's something happening. The right is fighting back, and they're fighting back with abandon on cable news. And we've got perfect examples of it for you that we want you to see that will leave you high-fiving yourself and cheering all the way to the next episode of your favorite cable news show. Also, finally, there's this left-wing gamer dude who thinks he's smart about politics and morality. His name is Destiny. And, well, yesterday when he opened up his yap and started spouting off about Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump, his destiny was to be defeated. And he was, in a big way. The man's a loser with a capital L. All that coming up right now and a whole lot more. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Like our show, damn it. I demand it. No, really, if you can give us some thumbs up right now. And since we've had an explosion of new viewers over the course of the last week, I'd love for you to find out or tell us how you found out about our show. Was this recommended to you by a friend? Did you find it on social media, Facebook, Reddit? Did the link get shared somewhere, or did the algorithm in the platform that you're watching on right now push our show to you and say, hey, if you like X, we figure you'll watch Larry? Let us know. That's a huge thing for us. Tell us in the live chat right now or in the comment section. If I can I use comment section, or did Daily Wire copyright that? Yeah, I can say that. Put it in the Brett Cooper right down. Oh, see, now that I can't do. Okay, put it in the comment section down below and let us know how you found out about us. We'd really appreciate that. Thanks a bunch. When inflation jumps and when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, did you know that the national debt is over $37 trillion? Yeah, you hear news like that and you might think to yourself, maybe now's the time to buy some gold. Well, we're trying to make it really easy and enticing for you to do just that, whether as a hedge against inflation or just as a sensible diversification. Birch Gold Group thinks that every American should own physical gold. So how's this for an enticement? Until September 30th, if you are a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to 10,000 smackers. $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. You got to claim eligibility to start that process. Request an info kit right now. Just text Larry to 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Did you know that? And you're still eligible for a rebate and free metals of up to $10,000. Make right now the time you contact Birch Gold. Take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by September 30th. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. That's Larry to 989898. Do it today. Well, I'd like to say the right has been awoken by the events of the last week, the public assassination of Charlie Kirk, and then even more so, the despicable, deceitful, gleeful response by the organized left, elected officials, professionals, judges, airline pilots, doctors, lawyers, teachers, all gleefully and unabashedly celebrating the murder of this fine young man, this icon of conservative thought and communication who walked amongst us. I'd like to say that the right is now awoken because of that. We're not woke, but we've been woken up. And we've got some prime examples of that just occurred last night, the greatest of which was Greg Gutfeld putting Jessica Tarlov in her both sides place with abandon on the 5. I'm going to show that clip to you in a second. But first, this one really caught my eye. I got to say, I'm a communicator for a living. I do this. I try to tell you what's happening in this country. I try to give you context and analysis of the news, and I try to explain conservative thoughts and conservative opinions about what's going on in our world and why we think the way we think. But when someone else does it in such a plain and clear and logical, articulate way, I am more than ready to take a back seat to that person and highlight what they've done. And that's the case with Batya Ungar-Sargon last night, scoring off with Geraldo Rivera on News Nation, where she very perfectly explains why it is so offensive at this moment, as we continue to grieve the loss of Charlie Kirk, to hear people in authority wag their fingers in our face and tell us, oh, no, you're just as guilty as that assassin. You need to own up to it. You need to admit that there's way too much violence on the right. Why is that so offensive? Well, Batya explains it for all of you.
There's a lot of calls for unity now. I love calls for unity. There's also people saying both sides are to blame. This is a problem of political violence on both sides. I want to just explain briefly why this is so offensive to people on the right to hear right now. It's because it is not true. It is asking them to bear the burden of the guilt that harmed them before Charlie's body has even been buried. They are being asked to assume half of the guilt for a crime committed against their side, the likes of which there just is no parallel from right-wing violence to left. Has one Democrat come out and said, I apologize for calling Trump Hitler? Has one Democrat come out and said, I apologize for calling Charlie Kirk, hateful or spreading hate speech? Has one Democrat come out and said, I regret saying that the right are all fascists and Nazis? No. So I want to take this arm that's being held out to me in unity. But, you can ask for unity instead of revenge, and you should. You cannot ask for unity at the price of the truth. And I am being asked, in order to take that hand, to co-sign a lie that there is no guilt at the upper echelons of the Democratic Party, which
I
brings
have
me
never
back
said
to those
any of
two
those
young
things.
men you started with.
Geraldo, you get the
But
last word.
Geraldo, you can't apologize because you never said it. But what about AOC who said it? And what about Kamala Harris who said it? And what about Joe Biden who said it? And what about Chris Murphy who said it? What about Gavin Newsom who said we're going to punch them in the face a week ago? Where's the apology? When Donald Trump says something and it leads, God forbid, to an assassination of a huge figure, then I will apologize. Then that will be the time to ask me for the apology. But right now, the greatest avatar on the right was murdered in cold blood because he told his family the exact same things that every major Democrat says on the regular. That's where the guilt is.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's 1,000% right. And I honestly, I can't add anything to it. I can only repeat in my own words exactly what Batya just said so brilliantly and so perfectly. It is being demanded upon us that we in some way co-sign on to the behavior that they engaged in that led to Charlie Kirk's murder. Otherwise, we cannot find unity. That's what's being demanded upon us. You were raised by an abusive father, and in no way can we move forward in helping you get through the trauma of that abuse unless you step up and acknowledge that you're just as guilty as your abusive father. That's maniac sociopath talk. But that's what's being considered as high-minded, intellectual, and even compassionate and empathetic discussions from the left and from your legacy corporate media outlets directed toward us right now. And this is why things are different. Because up until this point, we may have been fooled into going along with it. We may have said, yeah, no, you're right, Charlottesville. No, you're right, January 6th. Okay, you're right. Let's just move on then. But no. Nope. Not anymore. Nope, not going to happen. Not anymore. I'll prove it to you. Trigger warning, you're about to hear the voice of Jessica Tarlov. But don't worry, this has a happy ending, I promise. Yesterday on the 5, things got a little Tarloved. Can we use that as a verb now? I think after this, we might be able to. Watch.
It wasn't school indoctrination. Kerry Lake went off on that. He was in an online apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College, which I don't think was changed.
I would just know.
I understand, but they didn't say when he changed. Yeah. I'm just saying we need more information before you
Charlie Kirk
sneer
at a dinner.
Before you
we don't need more information.
Really?
Yes, we don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know.
What about
There's absolutely no cognitive.
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked
you want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was.
All right. I'm sorry for interrupting him because he's on a roll, but I just want to explain what she tried to do there if you missed it. The point that Greg Gutfeld was making was Charlie Kirk was a public figure, an internationally known public figure who was constantly derided and criticized and lied about and called a fascist and a Nazi and a racist and a pig by the organized left, by respectable and respected Democrats in elected office and in the media for weeks, months, and years leading up to his assassination. Nobody knew this woman, Congresswoman, State Delegate Hortman in Minnesota, until after she was murdered. She was not murdered because she was a public official and a lightning rod, and the murderer was not inspired by months and months and months and years of online and public hate geared toward that woman in Minnesota. What Tarlov did there was the most manipulative, underhanded piece of garbage that you can do in a public debate. She's either stupid for not understanding Greg Gutfeld's point, or she's a lying, deceitful, manipulative bitch for suggesting that Gutfeld was saying, oh, well, nobody knew who she was, so she didn't matter. That's not what he's saying, and that's why he just exploded. So we'll go back now so you can see it happen again, because this is like a 4-minute clip, and I didn't want 4 minutes to go by before I explained that.
Her name before it happened. None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your what about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead. For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, your beliefs do not match reality. So you're coming up with these rationalizations like, what about this? Or what about that? We're not doing that because we saw it happen. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with rationalizations. We are calm, we are honest, and we are resolute. We're not defensive, and I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guys. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So therefore, you have to grasp at rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy. He was under the hypnotic spell of a direct-to-consumer nihilism, the trans cult, and you know that. If you can decide that biology is false, you can agree that murder is okay and that humanity is expendable. How you cannot see that alone and see that for what the evil it is without having to attach all of these other things is beyond me.
I just want to be clear. I want to let people speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the five
But the
since
two
then,
sides argument, well, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No, all that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because that is a broad brush to paint with this. And this kid
Let's
does
have
seem...
a conversation.
No.
Charlie had a conversation. He got shot. Look, I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You weren't here for a week. You came in here and it's cold. And I'm sorry, but this is a story that is immune to news cycles. It's immune to rationalizations. It's immune to bias. This thing is with us for good. And we all have to deal with that. So that means we can't live by the same arguments that you might be reading about relativism among the media. We can't deal with those stories. It doesn't matter. The media is dead to us on the story. They built this thing up. We're dealing with it. We're going to act. We don't care what the whataboutism is anymore. That shit's dead. Sorry. For the swearing as well. I apologize to the American public. I'm going to shut up for the rest of the show.
He didn't shut up for the rest of the show, although there were only a few minutes left in the show because it was preempted by President Trump's announcement from the Oval Office. But of course, he came back later that evening on his own show and had much more to say. And thank God for it. Greg's one of the voices that we need right now. And do you see what I mean by being woken up? Not woke, but woken up. Greg's always sort of had that I don't really care, I don't give a shit kind of attitude. And that's what makes him so good. But something happened last week. We're not taking it. We're not taking it. And the rest of them, Jessica missed the memo. Jessica Tarlov was out all last week. This was her first time back at that table. And she missed the memo that the rules have changed now. And we're not playing the game just for an academic exercise or for just the intellectual pursuit of trying to pretend like we have both legitimate arguments on a side of an issue like this. No, we don't play that game anymore, and we're done with it. Even on CNN, even on Abby Phillip's show, one of their guests sitting in the Scott Jennings seat last night was Joe Borelli. Joe Borelli is a former New York City Council leader, a Republican in New York City Council because he's from Staten Island. And, well, they tried to play the game with him as well. They tried to play the statistics game about how there's way more right-wing violence out there. It didn't end well for the panel. And Abby Phillips, for once, was rendered into silence because she had nothing else to say.
And using that moment after a tragedy like this to say that this is about punishing them being the left, them being his political opponents. That actually, I think, is surprising to a lot of Americans because that's not typically what you would expect to hear from the White House.
Well, let's talk about some polling that he used to justify those comments before he made them on TV. YouGov came out with a poll 3 days ago talking about how each side feels about violence and support of political deaths. Liberals, 16% believe it's okay to feel joy when your political opponent is killed. Liberals, very liberals, 24%. Conservatives, 4%. Very conservatives, 3%. Justifying violence. Very liberal people have 25% answered yes, it's okay. You justified that you should do violence against your political opponents. Liberals, 17%. Conservatives, 8%. And very conservatives, 3%. That means it is 6 to 1 times more likely in respondents to this poll on the left. Now, I'm not saying there's exclusivity on the left. I'm not saying that. But there is certainly a problem where 6 times the amount of Republicans believe that it's okay to feel joy when your political opponent is killed, murdered, whatever, attacked, and that 6 to 1 believe that they are okay in justifying violence against political opponents. That's a problem. That's a cancer within the movement.
That is a problem, but I think the question is, does it justify him promising there, and you heard Stephen Miller doing the same, that they would use the state to go after democratic organizations and institutions purportedly who are organizing this crime, but without providing any evidence that they are.
Leaves the important part. You're not going to use the federal government to go after someone criminally or have any type of criminal liability on someone unless they're doing what he specifically mentioned: organizing riots, doxing people, so that these crazy 16% of liberals, 24% of very liberal people can get their information on where they live and
to dox somebody.
It should be. It should be.
but it's not.
If you're encouraging
Because-
people, if you're encouraging people to do violence, and then you're giving them the home address of that person, I think if that's not a crime, maybe it is in some states, maybe it's not.
Look,
it should be.
I've been doxxed. I know what it feels like. But I also remember,
Abby,
I'm
there's an alternative
old
view.
enough to remember, actually, this happens pretty much on a weekly basis. When a Democratic appointed judge rules against Trump and his allies, that person's face, their family, sometimes their address is posted online by the president's allies.
Do you notice how she immediately pivots and says, look what Trump does and look what Republicans do? Do you see what she does here? I'm sorry. Did you miss the corpse lying in a casket right now in Arizona? You're in the news business. You know what's in the news right now, don't you? And also that suggestion that, well, Stephen Miller just said that they're going to investigate these Democrat organizations to see if they're funding things. He said this without presenting any evidence. Yeah, because he said it on a radio talk show. He told it on the Salem Media Network's Charlie Kirk radio show. Of course, Charlie Kirk wasn't hosting the show. J.D. Vance was. Do you remember why Charlie Kirk wasn't hosting that show? Abby, do you? But they'd make this pivot with such aplomb, with such a confidence that nobody's going to call them out like I am right now, because they live in this bubble of privilege that no one will ever call them on their bull for both sidesing this, as we have a president who came a millimeter away from a bullet shattering his skull. Instead, he's just going to walk around with, a dent in his ear. And we have the corpse of a 31-year-old father of two toddlers who is guilty of wanting to have a conversation with college students. And you can't say things like that on a college campus. Are you kidding me? Real fast, I wanted to show you the beginning portion of this, which I found fascinating.
And using that moment after a tragedy like this to say that this is about punishing them being the left, them being his political opponents. That actually, I think, is surprising to a lot of Americans, because that's not typically what you would expect to hear from the White House after.
Well, let's talk.
Yeah, you wouldn't typically expect to hear from a White House, a president of the United States, suggesting that political opponents should be punished for something that he doesn't like that happened in this country. Yeah, we would never expect anything like that from the president.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love.
Yeah, it's really odd. No one would expect a president to use their position to blame their political opponents for something that they don't like in the country. By the way, some of those stats that Joe Borelli was quoting on the CNN show, this is a graphical example of it, and he's absolutely right. The question asked in this poll, do you think it's ever justified for citizens to resort to violence in order to achieve political goals? If you're very liberal, the answer is 25%. You bet your ass. If you're just liberal, 17% say absolutely. So that would be 42% of liberals or very liberal people saying, yeah, it's sometimes justified to act out violently, which makes sense because liberals and very liberal Americans right now are motivated by Marxism. And, well, we know how that story ends, always with violence. If you're conservative, 6% of you think that sometimes you use violence for a political purpose, which is too many, by the way. And if you're very conservative, I think it's 2%, maybe 3%, barely registers. But those are some good examples of the woken up Republicans, conservatives, fighting back and not playing these games anymore. That said, CNN will still do what CNN does. Yesterday, to explore the deeply concerning pattern of violent political rhetoric, especially coming from the right, they brought on none other than Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut. And here's what he had to say yesterday. And then we'll show you what he had to say last week, literally the day before Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Stephen Miller, in particular, who has been very forward-leaning about the fact that they want to go after political enemies because of this. Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, posted this. Pay attention. Something dark might be coming. The murder of Charlie Kirk could have united Americans to confront political violence. Instead, Trump and his anti-democratic radicals look to be readying a campaign to destroy dissent. And what are we talking about here, Manu? We're talking about, if you look really anywhere on any of your social media platforms, you are going to see examples of conservatives making lists.
Like we're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Yeah, we're in a war. You have to do whatever's necessary to win that war. And the next day, Charlie Kirk lay in a pool of his own blood with a bullet through his neck. But yeah, I'm glad that Chris Murphy is warning us about, how did he put it? Something dark might be coming. Yeah, pay attention. Something dark might be coming. Yeah, Senator Murphy, you may have missed it. And I'm sure that Dana Bash missed it because she's a teleprompter reader with a nice haircut at CNN. So by definition, they don't actually pay attention to the news. But something dark came. It happened. It happened the day after you declared that we were in a war and people have to do whatever it takes to win it. Something dark's already come, sir. You helped bring it about. Now, are you going to help turn the light on, maybe? And admit and confess and maybe take some ownership and responsibility for what you did to bring us here? Or are you just going to drag us down deeper into the blackness? Either way, we're not going to wait for you to make your decision. We are moving forward because we don't give a crap about you anymore. By the way, as I get ready for our next segment here, you may have noticed me drinking coffee out of this fine Larry Town Hall mug. Yes, we have our own swag. You want to go to store.townhallmedia.com. You can get your Larry mug. You can also get Larry shirts. You can also get a ton of really cool stuff that represents the great content that we've got all across our Town Hall sites, Hot Air, Red State, PJ Media, a bunch of really good stuff. And of course, you help our cause and keep everything at Town Hall Media going, and you can be part of the In Club. In fact, I'd love for you guys to sort of take pictures of yourself with your Larry mugs or your Larry swag and then send it to me on social media at Larry O'Connor. That'd be cool. Sorry for slurping. Embarrassed by that. Wait a minute. Hold on. Got to see where we're headed with this. Yes. Yesterday, President Trump in the Oval Office proclaimed that we've got way too much violence and violent rhetoric coming from the lunatic left right now in this country. And of course, he was immediately fact-checked by really, really, really smart people that have all the lies, damn lies, and statistics on their side. But when Ilhan Omar tried to play that game, the response is holding a mirror up to her own hateful persona. It was fantastic. We're going to show that to you coming up in a sec. But first, POTUS in the Oval.
It looks like he became radicalized over the internet. And it seems like he has wonderful parents, brought in a wonderful neighborhood, smart guy, great boards, great marks, great student. And then something happened to him over a fairly short period of time. It looks like he was radicalized over the internet, and it's radicalized on the left. He's a left. I have a lot of problems with the left, and they get protected, and they shouldn't be protected. But as you understand, I think very well from the tone of your question. Thank you.
Yeah, and let's just be clear here. That coming from the president, as well as a statement from the FBI director yesterday morning, Kash Patel, saying that this was a person from the left who had been radicalized by the left. in addition to the statements of the Governor Cox of Utah on Sunday saying, yes, this guy was warped by radical left-wing ideology. That, for many people in this country, would be the first times they have heard such things, because they were inundated with 72 hours of lying propaganda promulgated by the left, promulgated by people who are trying to protect that radical left-wing ideology and continue to promote the myth that the only violence in this country, and certainly the only political violence, comes from white conservative Christian men. In fact, they refer to this guy as a white conservative Christian man. If you look very carefully at the way they describe him, they say he's a young white Christian man who comes from a Trump-supporting Republican upbringing. Very clever words there that suggest that he is, in fact, a Trump-supporting Republican, which he is not. He was registered to vote, but he was registered in a nonpartisan way. However, that doesn't really matter. What matters is what he has said, the people he consorted with, the comments that have been made about him, the statements that he made that his family reported to the police. All of the things stack up to the undeniable fact that he was a radicalized left-wing maniac who wanted to kill Charlie Kirk because he represented conservative, traditional Christian values. But that propaganda campaign that was promulgated on the left and amplified by legitimate news organizations, it worked. It worked. In fact, a poll taken yesterday said that 41% of Democrats believed that this murderer was a Republican. 41%. 36% weren't sure. So 77% of Democrats in this country either were wrong or weren't sure about the basic political affiliation of this assassin, because they get their news and information from the New York Times, from the Washington Post, from the LA Times, and from broadcast media outlets. And so naturally, this is what they believed. I have people in my life, when I went to my Facebook page to see what they were saying about this, and they were all like, yeah, my understanding is that he was super ultra conservative and he killed Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk wasn't conservative enough. That's what they believed, because they were propagandized. And so we now are in a battle of misinformation. We are in a battle where they're going to keep throwing statistics at you and numbers at you. And I beg you, don't take any of it. Don't accept any of it. Believe no one. Believe nothing until you drill down and see where those statistics are coming from. I'm going to give you a real good example of that, a couple of good examples in a sec. But here's J.D. Vance filling in for Charlie Kirk yesterday on the Salem Network.
And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
That is, in fact, a statistical fact, except that statement from J.D. Vance yesterday was absolutely exploding all over social media, with fact checkers and liberals and left wings mocking him and saying that he was gaslighting and outright lying to the American people. Now, who's right in this equation? Who's telling you the truth? Well, let's go to them first and see the case that they're making about right-wing violence. And because listen, if it's a frickin' slam dunk, if they've got the data on their side, if they're able to say, look at all these crimes, look at all of this political terrorism, all in the name of right-wing politics, clearly they should be able to make that case without lying, without fudging, without hiding data that undoes their argument, right? Of course, should be a slam dunk, should be a layup. So let's see. We'll start with this guy. Brian Tyler Cohen used to work for MSNBC. He was too radical for them, so now he's gone independent with a ironically named podcast, No Lie. He said right-wing attacks and plots make up a majority of political violence. Okay. Well, like I said, it should be really easy to prove that, right? Well, there were many internet sleuths who dug into the references and numbers that Mr. Cohen used to make his argument. Let's show you a few examples of what they've done. First of all, when looking at the numbers of right-wing versus left-wing political violence in America, they immediately discounted everything associated with the Black Lives Matter riots. I kid you not. None of the looting, none of the arsons, none of the fires, none of the riots, none of the murder and mayhem and maiming and shooting and the blood in the streets that were associated with the George Floyd incident and the Black Lives Matter riots are included in any of the reports about right-wing versus left-wing political violence. In the first 90 days after George Floyd, there were nearly 600 riots in America. And at each of those riots, you had looting, you had theft, you had shoplifting, you had arson, you had vandalism. None of it counted. Now, that right there, on the face of it, should be enough to discount every single claim that's being made. But there was more. What did they include? Well, Aryan Nation prison stabbings. This would be white nationalists in prison who get into race riots with Black and Latino gangs. Now, I guess you can maybe make the case that that's right wing, but these are criminals in prison. And they weren't committing violent crimes against competing gangs in prison to make a political point, right? I mean, that's not quite the same. I don't think that's what most Americans think of when they think of political violence. They also included a white nationalist who killed their ex over custody disputes. Also, there was a Black nationalist who killed somebody, and they included that in counting right wing. So in other words, if you're a white nationalist and you kill your ex-wife over a custody dispute, that's right-wing political violence. But if you're a Black nationalist and you kill somebody, that's also included in right-wing political violence. That's what we're looking at here in these numbers. Ilhan Omar decided to jump into the fray. I'm sure you've seen this chart going around. The blue is left-wing extremist, the orange is domestic Islamist extremist, and the red is right-wing extremist. We've been told this lie for years now that the biggest threat in America when it comes to domestic terrorism is right-wing white men extremists. And no one's ever challenged these numbers. We've always, oh, you're right, we suck, we're awful. Oh, you're right, we're the problem, we're the problem. But you see, we're awake now. And we're not accepting any of it anymore. So Ilhan Omar tweets out this chart. It's from the Washington Post. Source is ADL Analysis. Remember that. That's the Anti-Defamation League. Data isn't vibes. If you need vibes, check out the hate-filled comments the right wing will leave on this post and all my posts. Oh, she's such a victim, isn't she? Yeah, okay. So the Anti-Defamation League came up with this report and created that tidy graph. But you see, graphs never tell the whole story. So then you have to like dive in. So one very smart user took the original Anti-Defamation League, the ADL's report that created that graph, fed it into Grok, and asked Grok, please analyze the data in this report, and asked one simple question. Does this include killings in prison? Because, again, I guess we can all have our opinion about prison killings, but to me, if somebody gets killed while in prison as part of one gang versus another or one grudge against another, whatever the hell it is, it's not what, it's bad. I don't want anyone to be killed. Okay? And yet when we think about political violence in America, if we think of killings in America that are motivated, as this chart said, by left-wing extremism or right-wing extremism, I don't think we immediately think, well, let's start with the prisons. Let's start with convicted convicts, okay? Find out what's going on with the inmates. That's going to be our starting point to count these incidents. But when Grok analyzed the data, the methodology, ADL's reports on extremist-related murders, such as those detailed in the 2023 and 2024 analysis, explicitly include non-ideological killings, including those occurring in prisons. The ADL notes that white supremacist prison gangs are a significant contributor to the figures committing murders related to hate, criminal enterprise, illegal drugs, and intra-gang conflicts for little or no media attention and are typically not publicized by prison officials. Incidents of prison-based deadly violence committed by adherents of all extremist movements are likely underrepresented, is the quote in ADL's own references on this report. But that doesn't show up in the graph, does it? Does it? You see, to make their point, they have to lie. To make the case that you and I are the real threats in this country because of the color of our skin and because of our political ideas and because of our religious faith, because we believe that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, to make that completely unbelievable point that no one would ever swallow, they have to come up with a graph that is undeniable. But the numbers creating that graph are deceitful. They're lies. Whenever you see these numbers, just know that they're based almost entirely on prison violence, criminals committing violence. Ilhan Omar went on to tweet, to those claiming they're for free speech while punishing and silencing those for exercising that right, you're not pro-free speech. And it's true. Many of us have suggested that if a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer or a judge or a member of the military or a teacher or a school board member or an elected official or a professional of any ilk who are excited about and celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk, and they're publicly mocking him and celebrating the fact that his wife is now a widow having to raise 2 toddlers and he was murdered because of his ideas. Yeah. There are many of us who suggest, gosh, I don't know what hospital this doctor works for, but I certainly don't want to be treated there. And I don't think anyone else would want to be treated there. I don't know what school this teacher works for, but I don't think she should be responsible with instructing children. I don't know what courtroom this judge is going to be responsible for in terms of meting out justice. But if that's their cavalier view of murder, perhaps they're not suited to be a judge. Yes, there are many of us who have said that, and that's not in any way hypocritical for those of us who love free speech. We're not trying to keep them from saying it. We're just suggesting, and we're not asking the government to crack down on it, by the way. Free speech is about the government enforcing speech codes, not about we, the public, saying, yeah, okay, you said what you said and you seem proud of it, but I'm going to take my business elsewhere. And I'm thinking the business you work for, they might be concerned that there's going to be a whole lot of millions of us doing the same thing. But Ilhan Omar thinks that she's got a real gotcha moment here for all of you Constitution-loving, Bill of Rights-loving, First Amendment-loving conservatives who are now apparently hypocritical because you think that you might take your business elsewhere when you find out the airline pilot who's about to take you to Des Moines also thinks you should be murdered. The problem with Ilhan Omar's statement is that it sort of flies in the face of this statement made by someone named Ilhan Omar. Does the First Amendment protect your freedom of speech? Yes. Does it protect you from being shamed or shunned by others? No. Bottom line, your opinions have consequences like everything else in life. Ilhan Omar really should be introduced to this person named Ilhan Omar. I'd love to see the two of them debate this issue out. Yeah, but we're the hypocrites. Sure we are. Friend of this program, journalist in D.C. Amber Duke over the Daily Caller, who herself has had to suffer from cancel culture over the years because of jokes that she made in social media when she was 16 years old. When she was 16, jokes that she made were stirred up, and then she lost her job through cancel culture because of those jokes. Amber Duke makes the point that all of us should be making on her behalf. Cancel culture is not about being fired. It was about whipping up fake outrage to coerce punishments that did not fit the crime. For example, people getting fired or losing contracts over decade-old tweets, or being boycotted for expressing mainstream political opinions. Getting fired for celebrating someone's assassination is, in contrast, a perfectly proportionate consequences. Amen, Amber. Love you. I don't want you to be discouraged or disheartened about this. Like I said, we on the right, we conservatives have woken up, and we're not taking this garbage anymore. And every time they throw some graph or statistic in our face, number one, our instinct is to not believe it. And number two, we will dive deep into the methodology to figure out what exactly made the case that they're trying to throw in your face, because more often than not, they're lying to you. And we know it. But even better than that, if you wanted evidence that Charlie Kirk's legacy lives on and continues to inspire a new generation of young men and women who are woken up by the reality of the two political factions in this country, take a look at this moment where two young men decided to speak out about their teacher and what their teacher said.
I'm Phillip. And I'm Brandon. And as the people of the youth, we've decided to come up and give our perspective on the subject, considering it is our teacher and one of the people that will guide our futures. No matter what anyone says to me, I will never stand for violence, especially if a man who was publicly murdered in front of his wife, one of his children, thousands of students, and other bystanders. Charlie was not a racist, he did not hurt anyone sexually, and he did not kill anyone. Therefore, this was an unjustified cause of death that should never be celebrated. So if you ask me, Charlie's children do not deserve to grow up without their father. Charlie's wife did not deserve to lose her husband. Charlie did not deserve to lose his life because of a different opinion, but this teacher deserves to lose his job.
As civilians and people of our great country, we hold ourselves to a higher standard than to support, or worse yet, rejoice in violence. Someone who advocated for an arrested murderer and assassinator of one of the greatest debaters and free speakers of our time should have no place in the classroom, more so around young children.
As a student of Barrington High, I did not feel comfortable or safe with one of our teachers supporting violence. We believe this world needs God because something as cruel as this should never be celebrated. God bless Charlie Kirk and rest in peace, Mr. Kirk.
That's right. The context here is a Barrington High School teacher in the state of Rhode Island who made a social media post celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. So they had a special board meeting about the disposition of this teacher and those young students who would be forced to sit in this jerk's classroom and submit to his discipline and his grading and his instruction and his moral judgment. They said, nuh-uh, not us. This was offensive by every measure. And you're asking us now to submit to his authority in the classroom when he has displayed and demonstrated that he has no basis for any kind of moral authority. Hell no. That teacher has now been suspended. Hopefully that teacher will be fired. No doubt the teachers' union will defend him. But the real story is those three young men. Those three Charlies getting it done. And they're just the tip of the iceberg. I think that they have no idea what's coming down the road right now. But those three Charlies, that's a good warning for about what's going to happen next. So there's this left-wing gamer streamer guy with a very loud mouth and a big following. He's got blue hair. Perhaps you know him. His name is Destiny. That's not really his name, but it's his gamer name. And yeah, he's built up a huge following because he plays video games and shoots off his mouth about whatever he wants. And lately, over the last couple of years, he's made his way into the political debate sphere. He likes to debate people like Trent Horn about abortion, and that was ghoulish, actually. I suggest you watch it just so you can see what a morally bankrupt person Destiny is. But actually, you don't have to watch that debate. You just have to watch this. Destiny has decided that Charlie Kirk deserved to die. He deserved to be murdered, and he's not shying away from it. He's proud of it. So here he was on his latest stream saying just that, commenting on a video that he saw about Charlie Kirk's death. And, well, I'll let Destiny tell you the next part.
Out the crime statistics?
Not exactly like
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. I'm playing video games. Okay. I'm done today. I don't give a fuck. God, it's going to be so fucking gay if I get killed in the next fucking 2 months of shit I'm doing. Well, the cucked shit out here. Please don't anybody make any actual fucking, the most cucked, weak-ass, fucking bullshit-ass speeches on my side. God, if it happens, holy shit. I'm going to make a death note before I go out to go live and not. God, it's so cucked. It's so optics cucked.
I guess we didn't censor that one going in there, Kevin.
Sorry.
How many times do our viewers and listeners have to ask us to bleep videos like that?
I'll do it in post.
There you go. We'll do it in post. That's just for our live viewers. Dang. Do I need to change the way we do our show here? Is that how I should do the show? By the way, I'm set up to do gaming if you want. I'm totally set up. Is that what we should do for our 600,000 subscribers special? Should I play a video game and just play along? We can do that, and we can show comments on the screen too, like he does, right? Should we do that? There you go. Keep them coming. What do you think, Kevin? Should we change our format?
We can talk about it later.
All right, I'll take the comment. Wait, I did it. I took them off. All right. All right, so that's Destiny. Profanity laden, but you caught the very beginning. You caught the very beginning about what Destiny thinks about conservatives in the public square.
Out the crime statistics?
Not exactly like
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature.
There you go. You need conservatives to be afraid when they go to events. All right, so of course, he's outrageous, he's despicable, he's profane, he's disgusting, and he says things that will drive people insane and angry. He's dangerous. So, of course, Piers Morgan had him on the show. Of course he did. This is what Piers Morgan does. But what Destiny didn't realize was that he was going to run up against Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec, friend of the program here, friend of mine, not only a great conservative commentator, but also a personal friend of Charlie Kirk. Destiny should not have gone there with Jack Posobiec. We've got several clips here for you to watch, but most importantly, just like that last clip you just saw, the most important part of all of these clips about Destiny is that Destiny is saying out loud what I believe most of these talking heads, most of these liberals, most of these activists are thinking inside, but they're just not unplugged and uncensored enough to say it out loud. Destiny doesn't care. So now listen very carefully to what he has to say.
You've been quite active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis. In response to Alina Haber's tweet ordering people to fly their flags at half-mast in memory of Charlie, you posted on X, buying flags and poles just to fly them fully erect. And you then posted yesterday, ending every conservative debate call out I do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro." That's not what Charlie would have wanted. I mean, do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes.
I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family, who was a 22-year-old
guy
white
described.
dude. He wasn't trans. He didn't have
Destiny.
a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys were wrong on all of that.
To be clear, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has made it clear that their investigation has now established that he had been radicalized by a leftist ideology, which drove him to do this. That's just
I'm sorry. Excuse me. When?
Yesterday, he said that.
No. When was he radicalized? In the 6 months that he did remote college?
I don't know when he was radicalized, but I do know.
What you just said
I do
is not
know
true.
the very reasonable sounding governor of Utah has made it clear that the
he hasn't made it
you may
clear.
not want
He
to
said
hear
this is
this.
an ongoing investigation.
You may not want to
You don't
hear
wanna
it, Destiny. But the reality is, the investigators, according to the governor of Utah, have established that he was radicalized to a leftist ideology that drove him to murder Charlie Kirk. Now, let me just ask you.
That's just not true.
Let me just
There's
ask
no
you.
way to deal with it.
Okay,
You're living in a
accusing the
delusional
governor of
fantasy.
lying.
Yeah.
That's your prerogative. But if it turns out to have been somebody with a leftist ideology who wanted to shut up Charlie Kirk, would you condemn that?
I won't condemn anything until the president of the United States can go on air and say, all of us need to calm down.
So you won't condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk until Donald Trump says something.
I'm a YouTuber. Leftists and Democrats have been condemning and turning down the temperature, condemning violence, turning down the temperature for a decade. Donald Trump can't go on TV and say, all of us need to calm down.
Right.
Can you tell me why he cannot?
Why
tell
would you
his
expect
side to calm
anybody,
down?
Destiny?
You can't answer that. Can you answer that question? Why can't
Can
Trump
you
go on
answer
TV
this
and say,
question?
all of us should be less violent?
Why do you
can't
think
Trump say that?
Why do you
Why
think
is your
Trump say
behavior
that? I feel like
contingent
I'm
on Donald Trump?
insane right now.
Why
do you
is
think?
your
No, let me
behavior
ask a
contingent
question.
on Donald Trump?
Let me
Why
ask
is
a
that?
question.
Because he's the president of the United States of America and the leader of the opposing political party.
Let me
You
just.
have a huge audience of young men who
I'm a
listen to
YouTuber
everything you have to
who
say.
has more
So
young
when
men
you,
following
it
him.
doesn't matter.
Who
You
has
have a
more young-
huge
it doesn't
audience,
matter.
and because
This
of
is
the fact that
world
you have a
I'm
huge
living in,
audience,
and
you
your
have
brain
a
has been
responsibility
broken by
to
online
not turn.
rhetoric.
No,
And
it
your
hasn't.
brain
It
has
hasn't been
been
broken. I
destroyed
actually care
because
about the
people
country
bullied you on
and want to bring
Twitter.
people together.
If
You do
then
the
you should tell
opposite.
Donald
You
Trump to
represent
tell
the
people
worst
to
of us,
be
Destiny.
less.
All right. That's why Piers Morgan has these people on, because he lives and dies by that kind of conflict. He wanted the screaming. He got it. That's Anna Kasparian, by the way, from Young Turks, a woman of the left who, at the very least, can call out some of the most odious on her own side. But you heard what he said at the beginning. I let it play for quite some time. The very beginning was the most important comment. If you wanted Kirk alive, you shouldn't have elected Donald Trump. If you wanted Charlie Kirk alive, you shouldn't have elected Donald Trump. That's what they think. First of all, they blame Trump and they blame conservatives and they blame right-wingers. They always do. Liberal Democrat gets murdered, it's Trump and the conservatives' fault. A conservative, Trump-loving Republican gets murdered, it's Trump and the conservatives' fault. It's amazing. It's really quite liberating to be a leftist in this country, isn't it? And rarely is that kind of mentality challenged. Good for Anna, by the way. It's a great point for her to say, what are you going to say this? Or are you going to say that? No, I won't say anything until Trump does. Why is your morality contingent on what Donald Trump does? And by the way, did Destiny, he was funnier when he had blue hair, I think. And when he was getting, you notice in the first clip, he kept saying, oh, it's so cucked. It's so cucked. He would know. He would know if you are familiar with Destiny, this streaming gamers history, which most of my audience probably isn't. But you can do a quick search about Destiny and his wife and a man they brought into the relationship. You'll see they had an open relationship for a while, right up until the divorce, because it was so open that she kind of liked how open it was. So it's kind of funny to watch Destiny Now, without his blue hair, comment on other things being cucked, he would know. But what was the one thing that he kept saying? That the left in America has been tamping down the rhetoric for a decade now, but it's never demanded of the right. Once again, I just want to keep reminding you.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans quote a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats.
Yeah, so that's the example of the left and their leader up until about 9 months ago, tamping down and cooling down the rhetoric in this country. He is using the bully pulpit of the United States of America, the presidency of the United States, with the seal of the president right in front of him, and two Marines in silhouette behind him with a building bathed in blood red light, saying that MAGA Republicans, which means you, if you voted for or supported President Trump, are an existential threat to this country, but we're not powerless. We got to do something about them. Yeah, way to tamp down that rhetoric. Don't buy any of this crap that they're selling you. They cannot make their points. They cannot make any legitimate political point right now in the public arena without lying, without deceiving you, and without gaslighting. And we're here to call bullshit on all of it. All right. The Piers Morgan segment continued, though. Again, I want to remind you, Destiny's first point was, if you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, you shouldn't have voted for Donald Trump. Yeah, that's the extortion at play here. There will not be peace in the streets as long as you elect the person that we hate. And if you think it ends with Trump, you're kidding yourself. So the segment continues.
Household? Why would Cornel West walk out on a debate when we're literally talking about the importance of speech? Makes no sense to me.
If speech is important, then the president should exercise it more cautiously.
So should you.
And Republicans have been. You can't stop.
You've got millions of followers, and you think it's fine to show them you're mocking a widow.
You cannot choose for your opponent not to fight you.
Fine.
If Republicans won't turn down the rhetoric, then who cares? Donald Trump shouldn't have used the rhetoric that led her to be killed. 2 days before she died.
Who cares that you mocked a grieving widow?
I hope you caught that. I'm going to play it again because they're talking over each other, because it's the Piers Morgan panel. But what she said about Erica Kirk, the widow here, is that if you didn't want your husband to die, Donald Trump shouldn't have used the rhetoric that he did. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said here. Take a listen. It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault.
You're mocking a widow.
You cannot choose for your opponent not to fight you.
Fine.
If Republicans won't turn down the rhetoric, then who cares? Donald Trump shouldn't have used the rhetoric that led her to be killed.
Donald Trump shouldn't have used the rhetoric that led him to be killed. This is what they believe. This is who they are. I'm not going to pound the table and tell you how outraged I am. Frankly, I find it refreshing that he's saying it out loud. Sadly, what really is haunting and terrifying about this is that you and I both have people in our lives that we probably work with, maybe even work for. Maybe we have in-laws that we have to sit and play pleasant with at Thanksgiving dinner. And we certainly have people on our Facebook pages who believe that in their hearts. They just don't say it out loud the way Destiny does. That's why this is so instructive for us. Let's keep watching, shall we? Because if you can see Jack Posobiec there in the box right next to Piers Morgan, he's ready. He's just let him loose, man. Let him off the leash, and he's ready to go. He's about to go. Let's just get ready for it.
2 days before she
Who
dies.
cares
that
that
was
you
all
mocked
tweeting
a
out
grieving
pictures.
widow?
This is all. It's just virtue signaling.
There
You
it
guys
is.
don't give a
Who
fuck.
cares?
You guys are excited about it. You guys love it.
How is
You
it?
love
How
the
is it that you
violence.
said this
You
guy
love
can't
the
possibly be a
conflict. It's
leftist?
exciting to you. It's insane to me.
Yeah.
No.
How
this
is it that you
exciting.
said this guy can't be a
This isn't
leftist
good.
because he grew up in a white Christian household when you grew up in a white Christian household by your own admission just now and you're a fucking leftist, Destiny?
I'm
Can you explain that
36
to me?
years old. This guy was 22 and he lived at home.
What does that have to do with
basically his entire
anything?
life.
What does that have to do with
Because
anything?
I had 20 years to separate myself from my parents' ideology. I didn't live with them still. Jesus.
So 6 months, 1 year, 20 years? Why does it matter how long it took to separate? You just got to say it was impossible. And you yourself are a leftist who grew up in a Christian conservative household, dude.
That's right. It's a great point. It's a very, very good point. I assure you, I have 4 children, and they all have different politics, and I assure you they were all raised in the same household. It's a moronic statement that you're hearing from the left, but they're using it. The people as superior and vaunted as the New York Times and your broadcast networks will say in very serious tones, well, he did grow up in a white conservative Christian household. As if that matters about an individual's politics. Okay, time for it's Posobiec time. He's been keeping his powder dry. He's been waiting. Let's go.
I mean, Piers, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, this type of ideology where you've got someone who's willing to mock Erica, who's been standing strong for her family, for her children, who's just she will never be able to grow old with Charlie. She will never be able to be with them again, have more children, to have grandchildren, to have those memories, to raise them. It's all gone. Every single moment of that future that they had was gone because someone fired a bullet at Charlie Kirk that said, "Hey, fascist, catch." And now you have people celebrating it. And when you ask people
That's
about
not even
it,
the
they
bullet
say,
that was fired.
"Oh,
How are you lying
oh,
about this?
shut
even?
up, Destiny.
Holy
Shut
shit.
up.
You're so
Shut
shameless,
up.
dude. Oh my god. You're not even inside the right bullet. You're such a disgusting
Piers.
piece of shit. Holy fuck.
What a pedantic
Are we-
point. What a
are we
It's not
even gonna do
pedantic.
this?
This guy's a fucking professional
It's total
liar.
pedantry.
It's
Epic
total
and base.
pedantry. Total
This guy
pedantry.
probably
I
I would like to let
Jesus.
Jack. I would like to let Jack finish his point, please.
Yeah,
and
his just little
and
rant
they'll
here, yeah.
claim there's no leftist connection. They'll claim there's no there and then go so far as to lie and say there's some kind of Christian conservative connection when you could see the writing on the bullet casings. And so you know these are very common symbols associated whatever. The point is, right, it should be very, very clear. Are we connected with our humanity or are we not?
Well said, Jack. And that's exactly who we're up against. And for those of you who are thinking, oh, Destiny's an outlier, he doesn't represent anything, and Ilhan Omar is an outlier and she doesn't represent anything, and this person or that person, and this school board member or this teacher or this doctor or this judge, that's just all outliers. They don't represent anything. That's not what's happening. One last video for you today so you can see, you know, I keep saying, how did we get here? How did we get here? And I pointedly continue to show you this video of the former president of the United States, the leader of the Democrat Party, spending an entire speech dehumanizing half of America, the America in the majority. You know, when they call the majority the fringe extremists, you know that they've got a problem. I've been showing you this video. How did we get here? How did we get here? How did this happen? This is how we got here. But there's another way that we've got here. It's about how we're teaching our children. Well, how some parents are teaching their children. Look at these 2 little girls. Perfect, normal, suburban little girls getting raised in a household, and they love Taylor Swift. And their mother wanted to capture their reaction on video about how excited they were that Taylor Swift got engaged. So watch what happened.
I have the best news ever.
What? Donald Trump died?
Second best news.
The vice president died?
Okay, third best news.
That Elon Musk died?
Okay, no. Nobody died. My best friend's getting married.
Which one is it?
Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged.
All right, now, first of all, forget about the mental illness involved with a mother of 2 children, a middle-aged woman, thinking that Taylor Swift is her best friend. Right there, we need to have an intervention of some sort and call in some authorities and maybe look at Child Protective Services. But secondly, And not only is that demented, what you just saw with those two little girls, immediately instinct, the best thing happened. Oh, Donald Trump died? No. The second best thing. J.D. Vance died? Okay, third best. Elon Musk. At no point did the mother of these two children say, that's a terrible thing to say. That wouldn't be a good thing. That would be a horrible thing. No. She giggled about it. The other important thing that you need to understand and that we all need to come to grips with as we think, oh, Destiny's an outlier and that judge is an outlier and Ilhan Omar is an extremist, but that's not really representative of the mainstream of thought in the Democrat Party or the political left in America. Understand this more than anything else. Yes, that's an atrocious video when you see that these two little innocent girls are being raised in a home by parents who would encourage and celebrate that kind of behavior. And that imagine what they hear in the household on a regular basis to reach the point where as a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, they even say that out loud. Imagine what they hear on a daily, minute-by-minute basis in that household. And that's bad enough. But we really have to be plugged in on and attuned with is the worst thing about that video you just saw. The worst thing about it is that the mother then posted it on her social media because she thought it was great. That's where we are right now. And we are very wide awake. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching our show today. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed, or if you're a new subscriber, and we've got a ton of new subscribers over the course of the last several weeks. Please let us know down below how you found our show. It's critically important for our marketing purposes. We've got some new advertisers coming on board, and it's all because of you and the great support you've given us. And we like to let them know how you're finding us. A lot of you tell us you found us from the Two-Way app and my fill-ins for Sean Spicer over on the morning meeting with Mark Halpern. Some of you say you saw me as a guest on Newsmax or filling in for Mark Levin. Some of you say we were watching Megyn Kelly and then right after her show, your show popped up. That's super valuable marketing information for us. So let us know down below. We'd really appreciate that. And give us some likes and some subscribes. Let's get to your super chats now. Over on Rumble, where we are not able to bring in the Rumble super chats, we've got $2 from Casparius, who says, stream the video game Claire Obscure Expedition 33 for our 600,000th anniversary. I would, but I don't know that game. If I'm going to stream a game and interact with you guys, it's got to be a game that I know. That's the game you're watching right now? Come and say hi. Meredith happened to be walking by the door, and she said, "That's the game." So so I know this game. There's no way I'm going to play that game. No, that's too complicated. That's not my game. Yeah, I could do. Yeah, well, no, I could go a little bit better than that. That's just come on. You should show off your speedrun skills. Maybe. Little cameo from the bride there. The wife jumping in. I know that game though, because Meredith is watching a game, or her favorite streamer is playing that game right now. So I'm like in the corner of my eye watching it at night. All right, $5 super chat from Arthur Brogdon. Every time I see Biden in that setting, I think Leni Riefenstahl. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's got the Third Reich written all over it, doesn't it? Leni Riefenstahl, nice reference. We have a very erudite, informed, and educated audience here. Thank you, Arthur. At least over on Rumble we do. I don't know about you people over here. Okay. All right, what other super chats have we got? God's best friend with £2. Not anymore. Sorry, that was my other cheek. Yeah, that's right. We're awake now. Thank you, God's best friend. Psychological Projectionist with a £5 super chat. A democratic organization that seeks to achieve its goals by violence or whatever is necessary is oxymoronic. You should have tried proving CK wrong. Again, something about Psychological Projectionist. He says it and he drops the mic, and I got nothing more to add. £5 super chat from Patrick. Hey, Patrick. St. Patrick with the £5. Where is Congress? Subpoena AOC, Jeffries, Murphy, Omar et al. Make them explain with evidence Hitler, fascist, threat to democracy, etc. to the people. Sadly, I hear you, but sadly, one thing I've discovered is that congressional hearings are sort of the worst place to try to get to some action or facts, but I hear you. Thank you for that, Patrick. God's best friend, 2-pound Density. Yeah, we should start calling him Density. He was better with the blue hair. What happened to the blue hair? Is he trying to rebrand himself? Dennis Harmon with a very generous $25 super chat. Bought some gold. Keep up the good work and great show. I'm guessing Kevin carries most of the weight. Kevin.
Woo!
That was gratuitous. And half-hearted, by the way, because I think you know the truth.
Thanks, Dennis.
Kevin and I have a truly symbiotic 50-50. Well, all right, maybe not. All right, in terms of man hours, you're right. Kevin carries all the weight, but that's because editing and publishing takes a lot of time. But we have a good partnership. Angela with the $2 super chat. Oh, I like your new avatar, Angela. Well done. It's uplifting to see 3 young men of bold faith. Yeah, I love that video of those 3 young men, those 3 Charlies. £2 super chat. God's best friend. I'm not feeling well. I agree with Anna Kasparian. I know. I needed to do a mental health check myself. Anna was making sense. Thank you, Angela. $2 super chat. He was radicalized by his evil furry boyfriend. Yes. Oh God. Where's my favorite meme? My favorite meme. Hang on. Let me see if I can just pull it up quickly. Oh gosh. Remind me never to search those words again. Something really ugly comes up. Okay, let me try to over here.
Do I want to know
what just came up? No, you don't. Oh shoot. All right, the meme isn't showing up, but it show. Oh God. Oh, I should never search that again. All right, I can't. There's not enough bleach to wash out my eyes for what I just saw. The meme shows a guy drinking a cup of coffee, reading his laptop, and it says, "Well, it appears here that the murderer was a right wing." And then the next panel shows the same guy looking at the camera, saying, "Wait a second, his girlfriend has a dick." The problem is I searched meme girlfriend has a dick, and well, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time now clearing my browser history.
Don't search that at home, kids.
Do not search that at home, kids. All right. Any other super chats?
Nope, that's it.
I wish I could show you that meme now because sadly you're all conjuring up your own images and it's not good, but it's funny. It's funny. All right. I think we're good. Thank you for watching today. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor and you can call me Larry.